All right, so we're diving into Law 7 of the 48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
And this one is a bit of a, well, let's just say it's called Get Others to Do the Work for You, but Always Take the Credit.
Oh, yeah. That's a
That's a bold one.
it's a head turner for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
But before we jump to any conclusions, like, oh, this is completely Machiavellian,
Yeah.
let's really unpack what Robert Greene is getting at here,
Sure.
because I think there's a lot more nuance to this than
What?
meets the eye.
Yeah.
And it all boils down to understanding how power dynamics work. And that's something that can be valuable for everyone. I mean,
For sure.
regardless of what you do or where you are in life.
Yeah. You're right. The title is a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
But Green isn't actually advocating for like just straight up
Right.
exploitation. It's more, if you dig a little deeper, it's more about a strategic
Yeah.
approach to delegation. It's about
Mm-mm.
maximizing your own time and your energy. Because let's be honest, we all have limited
Yeah.
amounts, and focusing on the things that you actually excel at,
Okay.
and then delegating other tasks to people who can handle them.
So instead of like running ourselves ragged trying to do it all,
You got-
we
yeah.
should be thinking more like I don't know, a project manager or something.
Yeah, think about like a film director, right?
Right.
They're not
Yeah.
acting in every scene or operating the camera, and they're certainly not editing the film,
Mm-mm.
but they are that driving force behind the whole
They're the ones.
bringing it all together.
They're curating all the talent. They're managing that process.
Yeah.
They're making sure that final product is actually matching their vision.
And they get the credit because they're the ones who
Oh,
are
yeah.
kind of shaping the whole thing.
Exactly.
What's interesting to me, though, is that this is not a new idea.
No.
I mean, if you look back in history, like Thomas Edison.
Right. We all think of him as this lone genius inventor,
Right.
but the reality is, well, quite a bit different.
Oh, absolutely. Edison had a whole team
Yeah.
working for him of, brilliant assistants and engineers, and they were all there in his lab
Wow.
developing his ideas. And you know what? He was really brilliant at managing that whole system.
So he was really good at kind of delegating
Oh, yeah.
and overseeing.
He set the direction, he kept things moving, and he made sure that he was always in that spotlight.
While his team was kind of...
Yeah, they were crucial, but they
Yeah.
remained kind of unknown.
So he cultivated that image of the inventor,
Yeah.
even if he wasn't the one, literally hands-on with every single invention.
Right,
So it kind of makes you wonder, like, how much of his success
right.
was his own genius versus his ability to kind of
Leverage.
leverage other people's talents? Yeah.
That is the question, isn't it? And what's even more interesting is that he wasn't alone in doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, let's go back a few centuries to the Renaissance.
Okay.
Raphael, the amazing artist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he ran his workshop in a very similar way.
You mean with, like, all the apprentices and all that?
Exactly.
I see the
So
parallel.
he had this whole team of really talented apprentices who
Yeah.
were really important in his massive output of artwork. He was
Yeah.
like the creative director, the visionary,
Okay.
but they were the ones actually doing a lot of the painting. But
But it was his name.
it was Raphael's name
Yeah.
that went down in the history books as the artistic genius.
Wow. So both these guys, both Edison and Raphael,
Mm-hmm.
they were masters of delegation, of
Yeah.
getting things done through others.
Yes.
But this is where I get a little, I don't know, a
Yeah.
little cautious, I guess. Like,
Sure.
how do we make sure that we're not just taking advantage of people?
Right.
Like, where's the line between,
Yeah.
smart delegation and
Yeah.
just being kind of jerk?
Well, that's where I think the nuance of this law really comes into play.
Okay.
It's kind of like walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
You want to be able to acknowledge your team's contribution,
All right.
but without diminishing your own role as the leader,
Okay.
the one who brought it all together.
Right. The one who
Yeah.
who had the vision.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So how do we walk that tightrope without,
Yeah.
tripping and falling flat on our face?
Well, Green is all about being subtle about it.
Okay.
One technique he talks about is giving like vague directions
Oh, interesting.
and letting other people fill in the blanks.
I see.
And then you can step in and claim ownership of the overall concept.
So you're giving the framework
Right.
and letting other people build it out,
Exactly.
and then you present the finished product as your vision.
It's like being an architect.
Oh,
You design the blueprint, right?
right.
But you have all those builders and contractors who are actually bringing that design to life.
Right.
You're not out there laying every brick yourself,
Right.
but you are still the architect, the one who envisioned that structure.
Okay, I see. I mean, it still feels a little I don't know.
I know.
A little
A
slippery.
little iffy, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why green really emphasizes the importance of giving some recognition.
Okay.
It's about striking that balance.
Hmm.
You acknowledge the contributions of other people,
Right.
but you're also making sure that you remain the central figure.
So you're not trying to erase anybody, but
Mhm.
you are making it clear that
Exactly.
you're the one who kind of orchestrated the whole thing.
You're the orchestrator.
But isn't there a danger of becoming too hands-off?
Yeah.
Like, what if we become so reliant on others that we actually lose our own skills and expertise?
That's a really good point.
Hmm.
And it is something that green actually warns against.
Okay.
It's not about becoming a lazy figurehead.
Got it.
You still need to be actively involved,
Okay.
guiding the work,
Hmm.
making sure it's aligning with your vision.
Right.
Think about John D. Rockefeller, the oil tycoon.
Okay.
He built this massive empire,
Yeah.
not just because he was a shrewd businessman,
Mm.
but also because he was brilliant at using the knowledge and ideas of other people.
So he was like a knowledge sponge, soaking up everybody else's expertise?
Yes, he surrounded himself with the brightest minds in finance, in logistics, in refining. Basically, he had his own personal think tank,
Wow.
and he was really, really good at absorbing and integrating their knowledge into his own empire.
So he became kind of the
He became the face.
face of the oil industry.
Like the oil industry, exactly.
Yeah,
Even
so
though
cool.
his success was built on
Okay.
the work of many others.
So it's not just about delegating, it's also
Yeah.
about actively learning from the people that you're delegating to.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But okay, how can we everyday folks
Right.
apply this law without, becoming mini Rockefellers or accidental supervillains?
Sure.
Because it feels very high level.
Yeah.
Not something that I can necessarily apply to my everyday life.
That's a great question, and it's one that I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
let's be honest, most of us are not running these huge multinational corporations or
Right.
inventing the next light bulb.
Yeah, exactly.
But the principles of this law can actually be very relevant
Okay.
to your everyday life, whether it's at work, in your relationships, even just in your personal pursuits.
So it's more about learning to be strategic
Yeah.
about how we use our own time and energy
Mhm.
and how we can kind of leverage the talents of the people around us.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it all starts with identifying those tasks that can be delegated
Right.
effectively
Yeah.
without losing control
Yeah.
or looking like you're just trying to get out of doing the work.
Okay.
Think about it. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt totally overwhelmed
Oh, all the time.
because you were trying to do everything yourself?
Yeah, like,
Maybe at work or even on a personal project?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that time I tried to plan my friend's surprise party by myself.
Oh, no.
It was a disaster.
Yeah,
I was running around like a crazy person trying to,
right.
get the decorations and the food and the guest list.
Oh, my gosh.
I was a wreck.
Now imagine if you had delegated some of those tasks.
Okay. Yeah.
Like maybe you asked a friend who's a great baker to handle the cake,
Right.
or a friend who's super organized to manage the guest list.
Yeah.
You see, that's Law 7 in action.
Wow. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah,
It's so easy to get caught up in that I have to do it all myself mentality.
it is. It is.
But it's actually way more efficient
Mhm.
and less stressful
For
to
sure.
leverage the skills of other people.
Exactly. You don't have to be a superhero.
Right.
You can accomplish way more and, stay sane by delegating strategically
Right.
and building a strong network of capable people.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
making me rethink how I approach
Everything.
pretty much everything. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. It can be applied to so many areas.
Mhm.
It's about understanding the power of delegation, collaboration, and, making sure that you're the one who gets the credit
Yeah.
for the success of the project.
That's been so insightful, and I think we've given our listeners
Yeah.
a lot to chew on already.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Should we? Let's take a little break and come back,
Go.
and we'll dive into more of this.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Law 7,
Right.
where we're kind of exploring this idea of delegation
Yeah.
and the art of taking credit, I guess you could say.
Taking credit, yeah.
We've been talking about how you can leverage other people's talents and skills
Mhm.
to achieve your goals, but
Yeah.
it's a delicate balance, isn't it?
It is.
Because you don't want people to feel like they're being used.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest, I think, dangers
Yeah.
with this law, if you're not careful. it can totally backfire.
Right.
If people feel like you're just using them,
Yeah.
they will resent you, which can damage your reputation,
Right.
damage relationships.
So it's not enough to just like delegate tasks and then take all the glory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Subtle.
Okay, so walk me through this. Like,
Yes.
what are some like actual examples
Go
of
ahead.
how you can take credit without being
Yeah.
super obvious about it?
Well, remember Green's suggestion about giving vague directions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you're working on a project at work.
Okay.
Instead of, micromanaging every little detail, you give your team a general outline
Right.
and you let them figure out the specifics.
Okay.
Then when it's time to present the project,
Yeah.
you emphasize your role in setting the overall direction,
Oh,
achieve vision.
okay.
So you're basically saying, this was my idea and they did a great job executing it.
So you're kind of framing it as this was my idea
Mm.
and they just,
They executed beautifully.
yeah.
You're highlighting your role as the leader, the one with the vision, which, to be fair, you did come up with that concept.
Right. But isn't there a risk of like taking too much credit?
There is.
Like what if the team actually came up with
Tricky.
some of the best ideas?
And that's where that fine line comes in and
Yeah.
why it's so important to be genuine in your praise
Okay.
and acknowledgement.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to highlight the specific contributions
Yeah.
from your team members, even if you're also emphasizing your overall leadership role.
So it's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between taking credit, but also making sure that the people who helped you get there
Yes.
feel seen and appreciated.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. What are some other ways that you can
Okay.
subtly manage perception
Yeah.
and position yourself as the leader?
Another technique Green mentions is acting as what he calls a connector.
Connector.
Yeah. And this is really effective in collaborative environments.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how some people just seem to
Oh, yeah.
effortlessly bring other people together
Yeah.
and facilitate these successful partnerships?
It's like they're like the human LinkedIn of the office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's so clever about that
Yeah.
is that by connecting the right people,
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially setting the stage for success.
Yeah.
You're facilitating the collaboration, even if you're not directly involved
Right.
in the day-to-day work.
That's smart.
And then, when the project's successful,
Yeah.
you can kind of subtly take credit for having brought everybody together in the first place.
Oh. Okay. So you're the one who kind of made it all happen,
Exactly.
even though you didn't necessarily do the work yourself.
Even though, yeah, you weren't in the trenches.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this works.
Yeah.
But it does all feel a little bit like we're
right.
playing a game.
I know.
Like we're trying to manipulate
I know.
perception rather than just being honest about our contributions.
I understand the hesitation.
Yeah.
It's true, there is a potential for this law to
Yeah.
be used unethically.
Right.
But, we are talking about power dynamics.
Yeah.
And understanding those dynamics can be valuable,
Right.
even if you choose not to use all of these tactics.
So it's like you have a secret weapon,
Yes.
but you don't necessarily have to use it.
You don't have to use it, exactly.
Okay.
But it's good to have it.
Got it.
And sometimes just being aware of these tactics can help you defend yourself.
Right.
Because let's face it, there are people out there who are very good at this,
Oh, yeah.
and they use it to their advantage.
So it's about protecting ourselves as much as it is about
Exactly.
subtly taking over the world.
You got it.
Okay.
And it's also worth noting that not every application of this law
Mm-hmm.
is necessarily manipulative or unethical.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just about being a good leader. A good leader knows how to inspire, how to motivate, how to delegate well,
Right.
and they also know how to take credit for the success of
Yeah.
their team, even if they weren't the
It's
ones
doing the work.
doing all of the heavy lifting.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of like grappling with this whole idea of taking credit for something that you didn't actually do.
Sure.
It feels, I don't know, dishonest almost.
Well, I think it depends on how you define doing.
Okay.
Remember, there are different levels of contribution.
Okay.
You might not be the one writing the code or designing the product,
Right.
but you might be the one who came up with the initial idea,
Right.
secured the funding,
Yeah.
built the team that made it all possible.
Okay, so it's not about
So it's not about claiming credit for every single detail,
claiming credit for every...
but it's about owning
Yeah.
your role in the overall success
Okay, got it.
and being confident in your leadership.
Yeah.
Good leaders don't shy away from taking credit
Right.
when it's due.
But they also don't...
But they also don't forget to acknowledge
Yeah.
the contributions of their team.
Okay.
It's a delicate balance, but when it's done right,
Yeah.
it can be a win-win for everyone involved.
Okay, all of this is really insightful, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
We've been talking about, Edison, Raphael, Rockefeller,
These big names.
all these larger-than-life figures, but how does this actually play out in a more modern context?
Right.
Like in the world of tech, for example.
Well, look no further than Steve Jobs and Apple.
Oh, okay.
Jobs was a visionary, there's no doubt about it.
Right,
But he wasn't the one soldering circuit boards or writing lines of code.
right.
He had a whole team of brilliant engineers, designers,
Yeah.
developers working tirelessly behind the scenes to make his ideas a reality.
But he was the one
But he was the one.
on stage, unveiling the iPhone, the Mac,
Stealing the next.
and really captivating the audience.
Exactly. He was the face of Apple, the one who got all the credit for their revolutionary products.
So Jobs was a master of perception
leapfrog.
management.
Well, faster, yes.
He understood.
He understood that presentation is everything.
Yeah.
How to build anticipation, create that compelling narrative,
Positioned himself as,
and position himself as the genius
yeah.
behind it all.
And he wasn't afraid
And he wasn't afraid to take that credit.
to take that credit. He did.
But he did acknowledge his team
He did.
at some
He
point.
did. Maybe not always in the spotlight,
Yeah.
but he made sure people knew he wasn't a one-man show.
Okay.
He understood that a happy, motivated team is essential for success.
So it's not about taking all the credit
No.
and leaving your team in the shadows.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot
It is.
where you're the leader,
Yes.
the visionary,
You're acknowledged.
but you're also giving credit where it's due.
Mm.
Your team feels valued,
Yes.
appreciated. That's exactly what makes this law so fascinating, so nuanced.
No, it's not
Just about manipulating,
Right.
taking advantage of others.
Yeah.
It's about understanding power,
Yeah.
delegation,
Yeah.
and positioning yourself as the leader,
Okay.
the one who makes things happen.
This has been incredibly insightful.
Good.
And I think it's really challenged a lot of our preconceived notions about
Yeah,
leadership and success.
for sure.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
Where do you see the potential pitfalls with this law?
Okay.
Like, where do we need to be extra careful
Right.
not to cross the line?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's funny. We always think of leadership as like
Yeah.
individual brilliance,
Mm-hmm.
the lone genius who has this amazing idea.
Right.
But what we're talking about with Law 7 is like
Yeah.
true leadership is more about orchestrating the brilliance of others.
It is.
Creating a space where talent can thrive and ideas can really come to life.
And it doesn't have to all come from you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, no man is an island.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Like even the most brilliant minds
Yeah.
need that support system,
Yes.
that network.
A network of talent
Yeah, yeah.
to help them bring those visions to life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Law 7 is really about recognizing that reality, understanding that success is a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And that an effective leader knows how to leverage the strengths of their team
To get to that.
to get to that common goal.
Common goal, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about making sure that as the leader,
Yeah.
you're not getting lost in the shuffle.
Right.
You're still
Still the captain.
yeah, like the captain of the ship,
Yeah.
even if you're not,
You're not hoisting the sail.
hoisting the sails, yeah, or scrubbing the deck.
No, not scrubbing the deck.
You are.
But you're setting the course. That's where perception management comes in.
Right. It's not about being manipulative,
Yeah.
but it's about
Strategically.
strategically positioning yourself.
Yeah.
So you're acknowledging your team,
Yeah.
but you're also making it clear that you're the one.
You're the one steering the ship. You're setting that course.
You're responsible for
And you're ultimately responsible.
for reaching that destination.
To reaching that destination. Exactly.
Makes me think about those times when you see like a project succeed
Yeah.
and everyone's celebrating, but there's always that one person who kind of
It hangs back.
hangs back, blends into the background,
Yeah.
even though they were like super instrumental in the whole thing.
They were so key.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're almost trying to downplay their role.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? In the long run,
Yeah.
that might not actually be the best approach for them.
Right, because if they keep letting other people take the credit,
Exactly.
then eventually
Their contributions might be overlooked.
overlooked or even forgotten.
Totally.
And then they end up feeling
Resentful.
resentful. Yeah.
Undervalued.
Yeah, like they're not.
Like they're not getting the recognition they deserve.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where Law 7 offers a different perspective.
Okay.
It's not about being,
Yeah.
arrogant or boastful.
Right.
But it is about making sure that your contributions are seen
You're seen as...
and that you're seen as the leader
Yeah, as the leader.
that you are.
Okay.
So it's about finding that balance between humility
Yeah.
and self-promotion, I guess.
Okay.
Between acknowledging the team
Right.
and making sure that your role as the leader
Yeah.
is recognized and appreciated.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've covered so much.
We really have.
But before we wrap up, I
Yeah.
do want to circle back to
Yeah.
those ethical considerations we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
This law can feel a little morally ambiguous.
it can. It can.
So how do we make sure that we're using it ethically?
Right.
How do we not cross that line into
Yeah, into manipulation.
manipulation, exploitation? Yeah.
Well, I think it comes down to a few things.
Okay.
First, being really mindful of your intentions.
Okay.
Are you genuinely trying to empower your team,
Yeah.
achieve a shared goal,
Right.
or are you just focused on self-promotion and personal gain?
So it's about checking your ego,
Yeah, check that ego at the door.
making sure that your actions are aligned with
Yeah.
the best interests of the team,
Of the team.
not just your own
Yeah,
ambitions.
exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Second, being transparent.
Okay.
Give credit where credit is due.
Even
Even if you're the one taking the lead, you acknowledge those who helped you get there.
So be a gracious leader.
Be gracious, lift others up.
Yeah,
Don't dim their light so you can shine brighter.
I love that.
And finally,
Being aware of those power dynamics.
okay,
Make sure everyone feels comfortable, respected.
yeah,
That there's a sense of fairness,
equity.
equity. Yeah.
Okay,
So create that environment where everyone feels valued,
yeah,
empowered.
right. So success is a
It's a team effort,
team effort. Yeah,
not a zero-sum game.
I like that.
And ultimately, I think that's what separates the great leaders
Mm-hmm.
from those who are just using others to get ahead.
It's about using your power wisely,
Wisely.
responsibly.
I'm making sure that
Everyone succeeds.
everyone succeeds. Exactly.
This has been so insightful. It's given us a lot to think about
Yeah.
as leaders, collaborators,
Mm-hmm.
just individuals
Yeah.
trying to make our mark on the world.
I agree. It's a powerful law.
It is.
It can be used for good or bad.
Yeah.
And I think understanding it can make us all more effective,
More ethical.
more ethical, and ultimately
more successful.
more.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Law 7.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the world of the 48 Laws of Power.